Welcome back, everybody. So let's talk about the Grudge 2020, the newest reboot question mark of the Grudge films. And I looked it up later after I watched the movie, and this movie is technically in the universe of the other three Grudge movies that were Americanized with the Sarah Michelle Gellar and Amber Tamlin. So this is connected to those, but very very loosely. It's not completely a reboot, but it is a sequel, but a sequel boot, I guess, if you want to say anything about it. Going into this movie, I kept hearing like praise. I kept hearing people saying that this looks awesome. The trailer looks awesome. I didn't watch any trailer for this. I didn't get a trailer to any movie before this came out, and I remember the other two Grudge movies, the American ones, like all right. I think they're okay in entertainment, and I liked Ju-on, the original Grudge, but those are the only Grudge movies I have seen. So I haven't seen all the Grudge movies really, and going into this one, I was like, okay, if it's a reboot, fine. And watching this movie, coming out of the theater, I was really angry. I never really get angry at movies that easily. I try to always find something positive. But now that I've calmed down, I realize that there are things that I enjoy about it. I do like the acting in it. I thought the acting was good. I thought it had a couple good gory moments. But besides that, I'm still not going to be super positive about this movie, and I hate being negative, but this one is, to me, so dreadfully dull. Um, it is so dreadfully dull and so uninteresting that I never felt invested in this movie. And it's a shame because there are people who I think I've heard a couple reviews of people liking it, and that's awesome. Good for whoever likes it, and I'm glad. But it just wasn't my cup of tea. Because again, I thought the other ones were fine. I like the other Grudge movies all right. But this one just didn't even feel like it was even a Grudge movie, because this isn't really a spoiler, but the ghost, the whatever its name is barely in this movie. It most of this movie is just a drama that's adequate. And by the end of the movie, it becomes a horror movie. And it's like the other Grudge movies where it's like a series of like characters encountering the Grudge, like different scenarios of characters who are touched by the Grudge and are being possessed by the Grudge or being stalked by the Grudge. So it's like the other movies, but to me, it's just so dreadfully dull. Like, that's my biggest problem with it. I just didn't care at all. I didn't care for the characters. I didn't care for anything. But again, there are a couple good things about it. The acting's great. The actors are all good. We've got a good cast here as well. I liked all these actors, and I thought that they did good for what they had. But it's just one of those movies where it's just the dullness for me overtook everything else. It just wasn't interesting. There's a couple instances of gore in this movie, which I think it really does work too. That's another positive. Because the other Grudge movies, at least the American ones, were both PG-13. Well, no, actually, Grudge 3 might have been rated R. I didn't see Grudge 3, but that one I think was direct to DVD and it was rated R, I believe. I could be wrong, but I believe it was rated R. But it's funny to see that it's an R-rated Grudge movie, because whenever they have gore in this movie, the gore is really cool and it actually works well. But all the things I'm pointing out, the acting is good and the gore is good. But there isn't much gore, and the acting is good, but it's in a movie that just I felt dreadfully bored with. So it's like I never felt a full sense of investment or positivity to this, unfortunately. And I do want to give it its positives. Like, it does have a couple okay things about it, but I think it's definitely not good in my opinion. But again, I love when people think differently. I love when people have different thoughts, and I love if people love this movie. That's awesome. And I hate being negative, but this is just how I felt about this one. I really didn't feel much of it. It just was very, very forgettable and dull. So that's all I could say about the Grudge 2020. Tell me down below what you guys think of the movie if you've seen it. I really want to know people's thoughts, because again, I feel like there's a lot of negative thoughts, myself included, for this movie. There's a couple reviews I've seen that people have been positive about, which I like, or positive or mixed bag. But for me, this one wasn't that great. It just wasn't one that I really will remember or care about ever rewatching again. But that is my thoughts on the Grudge 2020, and thank you guys so much for watching.